Hello everyone, welcome to part 4, last part of the 1.5 team building guide. It's, for those of you who don't know, it's just a quick, well not quick actually, these are probably like each, if I remember correctly, they're like average 20 minutes long, and a bit over 20 minutes, so it's not really quick, but we have a lot to go through. We go through every single stage of your progression from first start playing the game until, super late game, end game stuff. So there's a reason why it's not short. There's a lot of stuff to go through. So, anyways, let's just get into this. This last part is we're going over local 4. If you don't know what the locals are, you can check out my spawn guide video on what different locals and zones are, what dinos spawn there, etc. So yeah, let's get into this. For the fourth local, it's a very I'd say it's a beginner friendly local. It has a lot of very strong early game dinos, and end game dinos are okay as well. It has Anki, very important end game dino. Spino as well. Para is a really important end game dino. So they have really decent early game and end game options. So yeah, let's go. Let's start this then. So starting off, when you first start playing the game, you probably would see a lot of commons, and that includes the daytime global common, which is a Patasaurus. If I can find it, yep, it's over here. It's a tank, high HP, low speed, low damage, but it can decelerate, so the speed isn't too much of an issue. And another global common, which is Dimorphodon, spawns during dawn and dusk. When you see the map turn dawn or dusk, these things will spawn in waves, so it shouldn't be too hard to get a few. This thing is fast, it bleeds, and it bleeds. So that's that. Bleed, by the way, it does a percentage of your opponent's HP. Different moves do different percentages for different turns. They are DOT, so they're decently strong now. Next, during the night, you'll find Velociraptors, the star of a lot of the Jurassic Park movies. It's very fast, does a lot of damage on turn 1. Also has, distracting on turn 1 with the pounce ability, which is why it can still work despite its abysmally low HP. So there's that. It is the fastest dino in the game also, by the way. And next, another nighttime common, Tarbosaurus. We could throw Tarbosaurus in there if I could find it. It's probably level 20 or something on my end. Yeah, here it is. This is your first Rex-like dino, or should be. It does a lot of damage. It breaks shields and armor. It's super slow. It has a 40% crit chance, so it's really strong in that sense. And then we move on to some local 4 commons. We can have one of those anytime local 4 commons, which is a Suchomimus. Suchomimus is also a bleeder. Like Dimorphodon, it has more HP, lower speed, and that's its difference from Dimorphodon. Dimorphodon, I think, also has pinning, which is a okay-ish move, but probably you won't see too much play in early game. Even in late game, pinning doesn't see too much play, Suchomimus just has a regular strike. So moving on to some more local 4 spawns, especially daytime commons, we could get Parasaur. Parasaur, high HP, lowish speed, has a Purity Strike, which is a really good move. It also has Impact and Run, so you could run out of situations. You could cleanse Distraction. You could take hits. You can't deal too much back. Its damage isn't that great, but you can find some decent combos with these. You have 2 Swap-in Wounders, and there's another Swap-in Dino coming soon, which is really strong. And by the way, let's go back to global commons for a sec. We could throw in Nidasuchus. Nidasuchus is fast, hits decently hard, has Ferocious Strike, which lasts for 3 turns, so your strikes are all going to be Ferocious boosted, so that's nice. And another common, which isn't in local 4 but in local 2, and every team that I've went through all had this for a period of time, which is Dracorex Gen 2. Dracorex Gen 2 is, although it's a common, it is easily top 10 strongest dinos in the game at the moment. But you would have to work a bit hard for it since it is in local 2 and not in local 4, which means you'll have to go to other places to get it. And and this is the same for all the other team buildings except for local 2. If you could find like other dinos that are decent in your own local, or that you get a lot of, and when your Dracorex Gen 2 really can't keep up in levels, then you could switch it out. If not, if Dracorex, you could always keep it at team levels. It is an absolute monster, one of the best dinos in the game. So yeah, you keep that. You just need to work a bit hard for it. Okay, moving on to rares. So one of the nighttime, actually local 4 rares is Draft Titan. Draft Titan is a really, really strong tank. I think it's probably one of the stronger non-hybrid tanks. Draft Titan, high HP, has Purity Strike, Rampage, Bellow. I think low crit chance. I'm not super sure about that. Yeah, yeah, a 20. Well, low in comparison to Bracky, but still pretty high. 20% crit chance, and also some armor, 10% armor. Not too much, but that's better than nothing. So after that, we could get some global rares. Ornithomimus is really good rare, global rare. You could take out either Sucatator or Dimorphodon. You don't need 2 swap in bleeders. Ornithomimus is super fast, has immunity, hits decently hard. It is a really strong dino, even in end games. It could beat a lot of really, really strong unique dinos. So it's a really a good dino to have. It does rely on RNG sometimes against some matchups, but more often than not, it should hold its own pretty well. Okay, so let's upgrade our Chomper here. Let's upgrade Tarbo into Rection 2. Rection 2 has a Rampage move, which is 2 times damage instead of the 1.5 times damage that Tarbo does, although it has a lower crit chance, but it does have that move and also an impact as well, so you could use both instead of only Tarbo's one move. It also has a decently high crit chance, 20%. Weird that I just said decently high for this 20%, while I just called Draft Titans 20%, kind of low, but it's different perspectives, I guess. See what you compare it to. Moving on, we could take Nindasuchus out for a Wurosaurus. Nindasuchus, just low HP, falls off quite fast, and Wurosaurus is a really, really strong tank. I think probably also one of the better non-hybrid tanks in the game. And you also have another Superiority Strike user on your team. It has instant distraction that can stall. You could Dago. It's a really, really great dino. I think it's one of the better non-hybrid dinos in general in the game. Moving on, we have Cola Gen 2, which we could take out Parasaur for. And you could take Parasaur out for Wuro instead and, take out Ninja for. These aren't really that rigid. Obviously, this is only a structure. It's an idea of a team progression. You don't have to go 100% according to this. And I'd be surprised if anyone does go 100% according to this. There's always your own situations and stuff. If you buy incubators, which you should, it's up to you. I'll stop, I'll stop berating incubators. But, or if you use Sense, or if you travel a lot, weekly dinos, strike events, this isn't rigid. So, who was I on? Oh yeah, Cool Gen 2. Cool Gen 2 for Para. Cool Gen 2 is actually underrated. I actually think it's a decent dino. Just looking at its stats, okayish health, okayish damage, 124 speed. Moveset's not horrible. It just doesn't have that distracting impact. It has distracting strike instead, but it has really good base damage. Moving on, let's talk about some rare hybrids. Well, I say some, but there's only one that we could really talk about in Local 4. But it is the strongest rare hybrid, which is Sucatator. Super high HP, lethal wound, and has instant distraction to stall out the lethal wound turns, and has null and Superiority Strike. This is a really, really strong dino. Definitely end game worthy dino if you do favor this kind of playstyle. Super, super strong. It could kill like easily 70% of the dinos in the game, I think. It might die in the process, but that's good enough for a rare hybrid. So after you play a while, you start getting epics, and the first epics you might come across is Rex, the Epic Rex, because it is a global epic spawn, and Ludia does like giving out events for this guy, so you probably will get this thing a lot. Maybe not as much as it used to spawn, but it should be still decent. She'll still have a decent spawn rate. And let's also upgrade our sauropod into Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus is one of the best tanks in the game, even including all the hybrid tanks and stuff. It's really, really strong. Second highest HP, or second or third highest HP. I think Diblo might be a bit higher now. Some armor, 30% crit chance, which is monstrous. Rampage, Bellows, Purity Strike, really strong dino. And let's take out Kula Gen 2, upgrade it to the Gen 1 version of Kula. It has the impacts instead, so this one works a bit better. It's more of an offensive version of the Kula Gen 2. And we could take out Ornitho for Rajasaurus, which actually has a really interesting kit. It has super high crit chance because with that extended critical strike, that moves its crit chance up to 80%. So you're basically going to crit every move. So that's a really, really strong dino. And moving on, we could start making some epic hybrids. One epic hybrid that Local 4 does have access to is Spinotoraptor. Spinotoraptor, really, really strong. Bleeder also has the distracting rampage, which is a really strong move that Ludia might nerf or might not. Honestly, like right now, I'm leaning towards they probably won't nerf it just because of the backlash recently. So we could take out Velociraptor. Oops, I forgot to go modify. Yeah, we could take out Velociraptor for Spinotoraptor if we could find it. Here it is. So that's nice. And another tank we could use is Stegoceratops. Although the components don't spawn in Local 4, they spawn in parks. It is still a very, very strong tank. If you can get a hold of it, I would suggest using it. You could take out either Worosaurus or Kula. That's Kentrosaurus. Either would work. Okay, now let's talk about some legendary dinos. The first legendary dino you probably will come across is either this or some other dino. That totally makes sense. But, you know, like, of course it's... Oh, whatever. I misspoke. Come on. But yeah, you probably will get Indominus Rex as at least one of your first legendary dinos. The components do spawn everywhere, so wherever you go, you have a chance of getting its components. Although, granted, one component is daytime, one is nighttime, but it's still not super hard to get. Okay, another epic that you would have access to in Local 4, very, very strong tank. Dragodistus, you could take out Raja for that, or Kula. Very, very strong tank, as I said. Rampage does a lot of damage. Rampage, I think the Rampage Greatest Stunning Strike Rampage combo is kind of underrated, and also has a counter damage, which isn't too much, but you know, it's some damage. So there's that. And then we can upgrade our Spinotoraptor into Spinosuchus, which just needs some Capro, which obviously is a global nighttime spawn. So it's not super hard to get as well. Very, very strong bleeder. 129 speed with lethal wound. That's a 3-turn guaranteed kill if your opponent doesn't cleanse or swaps. So that's very strong. The crit impact on this thing, with it has 20% crit by itself, and then plus another 40% crit. That's 60% chance to deal, or I think crit impact is 50%. But yeah, to deal massive amounts of damage. Oh, 40%, yeah. So 60% chance of dealing massive amounts of damage with 129 speed. Swoop is also a swapping move, so you could, you know, combo that with Draco Gen 2. Absolutely crazy amounts of damage in one turn. So, yep, it's super strong. Put it in there. And we could talk about some tanks. The Anki hybrid, and Kentro is very strong. It's a really good tank. You could take out Kula for that if you haven't taken it out yet. And Kentro, it does suffer a bit in this meta, but still, regardless, a really good tank. It deals with Indoraptor really well. Indominus, obviously. Triostronics, actually, it does decent against. That might be a surprise to a lot of you, considering what Triostronics does. But yes, it does well against it. It could just null it to death. And then, moving on, let's talk about some other tanks that you could put in here that aren't really on the list. So you could take out Brachy or Stegosera or Ankentro for either of these other tanks. You know, Stegodius, Alankylosaurus, Megalosukis. These are all decent tanks. I think that's about it. But yeah, those are really good tanks that you could use on Mono Stegotops as well if you could find it or find components for it. Oops, where's let's just put Segosias there. And or you could keep Bracky if your Bracky is super high level. Bracky is a really strong tank. And yeah, that's for the legendaries. And then by this time you should be close to getting uniques. But before that, let's get some other out of zone legendaries that might be a bit harder to get because Parks you could sometimes find, and Alan Kylos is Elanki is from the arena, but other zone legendaries might take you a while to get, but these are extremely worth it. And here are two that are really good. It's Diloranosaurus and Utah Sinoraptor, both really strong, distracting stunners with really decent damage. Sinoraptor, a bit more damage. Diloranosaurus, a bit more bulk. Actually, a lot more bulk. But yeah, a very strong dinos. These are from local 1 and 2, so you do have to go out of your way to get them. But if you do stumble upon them, you could take out like Stegosera for that, or Enkentro if it's falling off, because I think, like, in my opinion, like 2 tanks is enough for a team in this meta. This meta doesn't favor tanks too much, so 2 should be enough. 3 is safe, but then you're losing out on some other stuff, so that is also a problem. But yeah, let's talk about some uniques. The first unique you're gonna get is probably Indoraptor. Indoraptor is the hybrid of Indominus and more Velociraptor. It's super strong, 128 speed, cleansing impact, 2.9k health, I believe, 1.4k damage, 20% crit, has evasive, defense shattering rampage. Super strong dino. It could beat almost it. No, I'm not almost. It can beat. It has a chance to beat every single dino in the game. There's a chance for it to beat every single dino in the game, and usually most of those matches are in its favor. So super strong dino. I can't say enough good things about it. And then we could upgrade Enkentro as well into Trico. So this is more of a pseudo offensive tank that is absolutely busted, strongest dino in the game. So there's that, and after that you could upgrade your Dilorano or Utah Sino into Dilorokairos or Utah Renex, which are all really decent dinos. And then by this time, if your Draco Gen 2 doesn't keep up, you could take that out, or Sucatator. You could have and if you do have the resources, do go for both Dilorano and Utarenex. Both are really strong. And the other one you could swap out for that is Sucatator or Draco Rex Gen 2 if it's not keeping up on levels. And one more dino you would want to put in this team just for more raw damage is either Tenontorex and Erlodom. You can take out Draco Gen 2 for that. Draco Gen 2 will be lacking in levels unless you do have it at higher levels than Erlodom and Tenontorex, which, I mean, there's a possibility where you could keep Draco Gen 2, or you could put in Tenontorex, or you could put in Erlodom. All 3 are really strong dinos. I would say Erlodom is stronger than the other 2, but Erlodom does not have... It doesn't fit well into a lot of team comps, this one included. So there's that issue. Tenonto fits very well with this team comp. Draco Gen 2 fits very well with this team comp, but I would say Erlodom is a bit stronger. But you could use it, but it really depends on what you draw then. You need some draw luck, and I never have good luck on drawing my hands, but it should be fine. But anyways, that's a decent end game team for a local 4. A lot of these dinos are not in local 4. Utah Sino, Dilorokairos, I think every team needs at least one of these. So if you're not in local 1 and 2, it might be a bit difficult to get these, but do try to go for them. They are very strong. Tanks, there's so many choices for tanks. You could swap these 2 out for stuff like Stegosera, Bracky, Monostego, Megalosukis, Alankylosaurus, Gripolith, Dioragosaur, if you really want, maybe Gigaspike or Notipatitan. I mean, if you do have like just a huge overflow of Titan DNA, and you really for some reason can't level up Stegodius, then sure, you could put Notipatitan in there instead. But those two definitely are the weaker tanks at the moment, but still they are usable, obviously. And there's that. An endgame team for local 4. We just went from this big beginners team in local 4 to an endgames team. Obviously, you don't have to follow every step of the way at all. This is just some suggestions of kind of an outline, and helps you choose some dinos. If you are, struggling at a certain trophy level, try out some of these dinos that I have suggested that you do have or can obtain, and see how it goes. So that's it for this video and for the whole 1.5 team building series. Hopefully this helped a lot of you guys. I know these videos don't get too much views, but hopefully for those of you who are watching and who do watch them, that you guys get something out of this, that it helps you in somewhere, helps your trophies, your ranks, or whatever. And yeah, if you do need some further questions about your team, you could leave them in the comments down below. I'm sure someone else could answer them, and if I do have time and I do come across it, I'll try my best to help sort your team out. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you're new, please considering subscribing. Leave a like for this last part of the team building guide, and I'll see you guys in the next video and the team building guide in 1.6.